soti bhavantu te.
And also check in with the placement of your arms.
The majority of people that I work with in treatments nowadays come with persistent pain or some ongoing condition that is, I'd say 99% of the time, rooted in a nervous system dysregulation and often also some kind of trauma, unprocessed trauma is playing into that. And I observe this more and more, that people deal with anxiety and persistent chronic stress. There's also a change, a shift in the way that we now work with trauma, and it is more through the body and with the body. Personally, I really feel that Thai massage is a really beautiful and suitable practice when working with populations who have experienced trauma. You can actually also step the fingers along the jawline. First of all, it's fully dressed, and a lot of people really appreciate that. You don't have to take your clothes off in front of a stranger. It also has a lot of movement that makes it really quite different to like your normal massage, and that's no disrespect to normal massage, no? But it has movement and stretches and twists and rocking, which actually a dysregulated nervous system might really appreciate, because what is really difficult to be with in that situation is stillness. Also, in trauma, what we very often see is a dissociation and a complete disconnect from the body. And so part of the work that we need to do is bringing people back into sensory awareness. A really important part of the healing process when we're dealing with trauma. Yeah, I felt it was time at some point to create a training to reflect more what it's like to do this work as a practitioner myself. So this training is probably the closest to how I also give treatments, and I want to share that. Really honing in on our listening skills, for example, what that actually really means to show up fully with full presence, without prejudice, without making assumptions. And we talk about what it really means to be in our own center, to really be so grounded for the other person. This is absolute key, that we can be so grounded to co-regulate in the right direction with our clients, with our receivers. And so that is why this is so important. We need to be in our capacity. We cannot be pulled away, torn to pieces, pushed aside, feeling dizzy. None of that. I don't care how many of these techniques you will do by the end of it or not. Don't do any of them, I don't care. But you've got to show up. Between my hands, and I can move the foot. But then here I can really cup around the full heel and make some fire. As a practitioner, to come onto these, trainings or retreats, these experiences coming into community, why do you think that is so important?
In general, it's for us, as practitioners, we need time to receive ourselves. And I think if it's an ongoing training or extension trainings, it's as well always a space for ourselves, right? To come back to receive.
I feel it's mostly very useful for myself, for understanding myself and my own nervous system and how I can support myself, which is always the first step, you can, and then pass on. I find that is the most valuable when you know something works for you and you understand from a felt experience that certain tools are really actually medicine, then it feels it's different to pass these tips on than just sharing things you read in a book.
in today's world, we're so conditioned, we get obsessed with fixing the thing. Now, if we start to understand that we can't really fix anyone anyway, it's not our place, it's not our role, and it's also not our responsibility, then, okay, maybe we can relax almost and say, what do we do? Okay, come back into vitality, find a little bit more ease, find a little bit more comfort, restore a felt sense of safety, so that then there is this beautiful healing process that can take place in the body. And the information for that is already there. That's part of our innate wisdom, it's part of our blueprint. So in my mind, my role as a facilitator is just finding ways together how we can find our way back there, back home, back to that place of that wisdom, of that inner knowing.
I feel like heat or something.
Yeah.
Somewhere quite different.
Yeah.
Right at the end.
So imagine right at the very core of your being there is these rhythms. It's going to impact everything else moving along in that same pulsation. Always at the same pace. Everything has to get pulled along because everything is connected, as we established with the sheet.
Felt the same thing.
Nice. There you go.
And that, as you talk about, you know, the nervous system is plastic. You know, it can change, and to actually experience that, experience living one existence to living a completely different existence, and to have been told that I was always going to be experiencing this illness to not experiencing an illness, been told I was going to be on medication for life to being on no medication. It's so liberating, it's so empowering, it makes me feel so strong. And if there's a possibility for me to share some of this so that somebody else can find their own empowerment and their own strength and their own healing, then how beautiful would it be?
Being in a space like this, again, to answer your question fully, feels hopeful. And, of like looking forward into the future when more people, and especially facilitators, therapists and practitioners get educated more in these sectors. Like, it's really gives me, as someone who is really skeptical about the world sometimes, a lot of hope.
Because he was obviously comfortable doing it. Sometimes
Just imagine how different everyone could be when they're not all stuck in chronic illness because there's no way out of it. It's powerful and important.